There you go.
Can anybody lip read? Does anybody know what he just said?
Somebody, you could have just went over top of it. Silent movie time. Is that working now?
Any better?
Just let me know.
Testing. Yay. All right. Thanks,
cool.
Ruth.
All right. So, take 2. Welcome back to Sunday Night Teacher Talk. What I was saying before I forgot to hit the unmute button was that this week we had a very successful new teacher back to school boot camp that we did. And just thinking of how excited I am for those folks that participated in it. But I also I'm just thinking of how like we both finally got a shower yesterday, because it's a lot of work, right? It's like putting on the boot camp and creating all the resources, 50 pages of 50 pages.
It's like 47, but still pretty close.
Of resources. That was for VIP. And then all of the Q&A afterwards and all that stuff in the sales copy, all that goes into that. And then I am away much of the next 2 weeks speaking. So tomorrow I'm flying out. That school, it's a surprise, so I can't say where I'm going to. They want to surprise their teachers. But I will be out of New Mexico tomorrow. Then Brody's birthday is he turns 17 on Wednesday. Yikes. Then I'm speaking again in Houston on Thursday. And then I'm away a bunch next week, but I have a couple days off. Like I have a couple days home, rather, with no.
Yeah, you need to put out some YouTube videos.
I do need to put out some YouTube videos.
Because we're supposed to be doing them every Tuesday and Thursday, but we're a little behind. But we'll get back on schedule.
Because we're a little busy. Anyway, we are here because some of you are starting the school year like tomorrow, or at least professional development. Some of you, have a ways to go, but you didn't get off as early. So we are here for all of it. If you're new here, you can just drop your question in the comment section. And if you put Q or a question in front of it, helps us identify it. If you've not been here before also, and someone talks about something, feel free to put your thoughts in the chat, right? This is a communal activity. What we're doing here is something that I realize that I don't have all the answers. I, begrudgingly to her, I pulled my wife along. I don't know. I had to just do that whole acting out piece there, but
it's pretty
pulled my
much how you
wife
got
into
me on this.
I just kept talking to her. I kept talking to her while she wasn't on the camera until she was on the camera. And so this is something that we're all doing together. So please add your voice in there. So it's exciting part of the year. You have any questions yet?
It's been busy. Yeah, we have tons of questions. So let's get started. Jacob is up first asking, this will be my very first time teaching an honors level English for 9th grade. I've never done a Socratic seminar before. What do I do to prepare / grade for those? What can I do to make them engaging and fun?
I think with regards to engaging and fun, one of the things that works the most is kind of talk to kids about what you're doing. Like, I think this is undervalued, but having a conversation about how you're going to run something different, you're going to try something different, we're going to do something where, there's a grade, but this is so much more about you really finding your own voice, seeing what you think about something, sharing your thoughts and feelings on something, sharing and backing up and really actively listening to other people. Like this is the deep work of actually becoming educated and in finding your own voice. That's what I think is really kind of the move there with regards to like getting kids excited about it. In terms of grading, look, I'm wondering if anyone has like a resource or something like that. Like this would be a good thing to maybe even ask for like in the Facebook group. But when I think about grading things like a Socratic seminar, like classroom conversations, even folks that grade for participation, which it's tricky, but what I want to communicate to students is that there's a rubric for this. I'm checking things off a rubric, but this is so much more than a rubric. It's so much more than whether you did or didn't do it, because someone could talk a lot, but did they really care? Someone could really try and not be able to participate as much as they want to, even because they are processing. They're thinking about it. It's taking them a moment, right? And this came up, in the VIP Q&A the other night for the boot camp, like when some teachers have a slower processing speed and kids are talking about stuff and they're trying to stay up with it, but it's really taking them a time. And I think that's a real honor that someone would want to even take the time to sit with what a kid is saying to really be able to push it further. But I think when you're grading that, I just use simple rubrics for things like that. But then it's making sure you're touching base with kids, making sure that the comments are there that you're using, that you are sharing things with kids that they understand that what greatness is in that, right? It's like grading. It's almost like grading an art project, right? Is it good? Well, I don't know. Did you follow the directions? Yeah, but then I'm looking for the hard work you put into it. I'm looking for the effort you put into it. I'm looking that you actually sat there and listened to 3 other people talk, and then you used what they said and then turned it back into the conversation. I'm looking for things like that, and that's hard to quantify sometimes. And so we really want to make sure that we're having those conversations with students as well. I hope that was a decent answer. I wish I had a rubric that I could pass on to you or something like that, but I don't know that I have one.
John Lopez made a good point in the comments. He said, like, ask someone who's done that sort of teaching that method, whether it's in your school or in the Facebook group, but like asking and then saying, like, how did you actually grade for that? That's probably good advice.
And if someone's done it in your school, if you could sit in and see, like, what does that mean to them? That can help a lot as well.
Yeah. Okay. Gion's up next asking, do you think it is possible for a 180-day school year to not feel like a grind for the student? I don't think it is possible.
I think all school feels like a grind.
Well, yeah. And especially because remembering, like, kids are still undisciplined, undeveloped. Like, most kids, unless you like do something like sports or musicals and plays, like, you haven't developed, like, those things like are very schedule oriented and they require a level of like discipline and demand.
Yeah.
But for most kids, they're undisciplined. So school is part of what's building that discipline for them. I think, at least I think. And then, so it's like, is it going to feel like a grind sometimes? Yeah. But I think life just feels like a grind sometimes. It's your outlook and it's your frame of mind that helps get through it.
That changed my answer.
Oh.
I think that, and here's why, because I think, one, I don't think there's anything wrong with the grind sometimes. I think that school being a grind, I talk about a lot in my class, like reading for grit. Like we're reading for grit today. Like, I don't care if you want to read this long, like it's like, there are some workouts when you go and work out and you can even enjoy it. I don't really do it, but I know that there's some that suck less than others. And then there's certain days when I'm trying to reach like a max weight or I'm trying to push myself. Or last week, oh my God, I don't know why. I decided that instead of starting, I usually like run a mile on the treadmill just to warm up my body before I work out. I told my son, I was like, let's just do 5 minutes on the stair climbing machine. That was a horrible idea. But we moved to somewhere with no stairs. We used to walk. We didn't need stair climbers before.
We didn't. We had a lot of stairs in our house, and we went up and down them a lot.
Yeah. And now we have two. It's
two
like
baby ones.
Little baby steps. So anyway, I don't think that the grind is so bad, but it's noting it, right? It's like, this is going to be a little harder. This is a little bit more of a struggle. We realize that we're in the middle of March, and it's been, especially in the Northeast, it's like cold and dreary and cloudy and kind of miserable. And even when it never really snows, but it rains, and it's like that little like
misty
rain that just is annoying. Those days stacked on top of one another are difficult. So, one, I don't think the grind's so bad. Two, Gian, how do you keep it from being a grind to you? Because your energy is contagious, and you're responsible for the energy that you bring into every room. So when we think about that, how am I stewarding my energy well, so that when I come into school, it is contagious, not just amongst the students, but amongst the staff? I think it has so much to do with schools creating a culture where, think about it like this. We start the school year with all this emphasis on everything that we're going to do. And many schools do it very well, right? We're talking, like, I worked with a school last year, and they did this. It's just an incredible charter school called Slam Charter. They're all over the country, but I was in Florida. I mean, they got the balloon arches, and, schools welcome kids in, and we're cheering for them, and there's music, and it's this big thing. There's not enough of that during the year. It's like, why aren't we doing that in March? Why don't we make events that happen? And we do that also at the end of the year too. There's all this, like, here's an old man marker. There's all of this hullabaloo going on where there's excitement and end of the year. And finally, what if we made moments during the year that were exciting, moments that kids worked up to, moments that like were not such a drag, that we know that February and March are coming. How do we get excited in that time? But I think that's school culture. And I think that we influence the students. We need to not have the students influence us as much. And so how do we do that? We do that by getting together as a team, creating something. So could your school create something that's like, we're getting stoked going into March, going into February, where these are typically like really dry seasons in the school year. And then how do we build on that? How do we make magic happen in those times of the year, right? I remember
I keep hitting the wrong button. I don't know what the heck's wrong with me.
When I was teaching in Camden, at Camden Academy, one of the ways that they did that was they like 10x'd Black History Month. And their Black History Month, like presentation was one of the best. It's one of the best productions I've ever seen. It was unbelievable. And Ashton McDougall led it. And it was like all these student performances and all this great dance stuff. So kids, like, there was a buzz about the school of like getting ready for this. There was all kinds of stuff that happened in the school. It wasn't just like, just decorate your door and every day we're going to read something about Black History Month over the announcements. It was like, it was engulfed the school. And that had nothing to do with admin. Admin just said yes, right? Which is why I think admin should do most of the time, is just say yes. But it was this explosive experience that created a buzz in the school during a time of the year when there wasn't much of a buzz, when it was boring.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Okay, Steph is up next asking how to be better / more easily communicate with parents without adding to your workload.
So this is her goal this year. So we talked about this a little bit the other night, I think, on the Q&A, if I remember correctly, but it is, I think, doing it regularly so that it's not a surprise and that parents know when it's coming. So I send communication home every Friday. I send it home in the form of kids write down what we did this week. They write down what their current grade is in class. They write down any assignments that they missed.
So you have a student reflection worksheet that you hand out every Friday to your students, and they have to take it home?
Well, they can take it home. If you're not passing the class, which in my class was under 70, so if you have a 69 or lower, you have to get it signed by a parent or guardian and bring it back in on Monday. If you don't, I don't do this. I have a student that pulls them all in, that checks off the kids I identify ahead of time, like which kids need to get it done. And so their names are just highlighted on my seating chart. I have a student, so like that would sit there, like DJ Dirty Kev used to do this for me all the time. And he would just go through them and check off if a kid brought it in. If they didn't bring it in, I'd ask them about it. And if they didn't have it, like I'd say, like, hey, did you have that paper? You didn't get it done. I have on Google, you can make an email that's a template. And so it was just like my student reflection email. All I had to do was either I would put their name in it, or sometimes I didn't even. And I would just send home like this robo email, like, hey, if you're getting this email, it's because your student is not currently passing Mr. Reynolds' 9th grade English class. They were supposed to get a student reflection sheet signed over the weekend so that we were all on the same page and you knew what their current grade was and what they could do to get it better. I wanted to let you know, and then here's a handful of things that are available for your student to bring their grade up. And it wasn't anything specific. It was all the same stuff all year. Here's when I'm available for help. Here's when they can get tutoring. Here's what they can do to retake assessments and things like that. And it just went home. So were these automated ways that I was communicating with parents, so that when I came to parent-teacher conferences, which is I think one of the most beneficial things that like my schools ever did, especially the way that they let me run mine. Because I was saying in VIP the other night on Q&A that, do you remember they shortened them to, they were 3 to 5 minutes, my school tried to do. So because they found they were taking too much time. But Dr. Noah Tennant used to let me stay as long as I wanted. And I would stay like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours after everybody else left, with any parent that wanted to still meet with me. And that's my own crazy. I'm not suggesting people do that. That's my own crazy that I do that. But I didn't want those meetings, those 3 meetings a year that you have with parents, to be the only thing that I met with them. I wanted it to be automated all year. And I reminded parents that every Friday by 5 p.m., my grades were almost completely updated, barring any like late work that came in because someone was absent, any large projects and any large papers. But all like classroom work for the week was all graded already. And that's because I automated that as well.
Yeah, I think email templates is the way to go.
Yeah.
Google Forms, like anything that's like automated that can make your life easier. Mass emails,
that's
like, right? BBC, or is that what it's called? BCC?
Yeah.
BCC.
But so one of the other things I did as well one year, I started doing this during COVID. We made that form that goes home was on a Google Doc. And when you did it, it got sent to me to yourself and to a parent or guardian. So even that was automated every week. And I found that parents really appreciated that.
Yeah.
Like, because it's hard to remember to look on the grade. Look, we're good.
Oh yeah, we're good parents, and I suck at looking at the grade book.
We'd be like,
Power School. I was like,
Mara's a what in what class? Like, and we didn't know. And I thought,
because life just gets busy for everyone.
But that's the great thing about being a parent is you start going, oh, this is why this happens. Like, it wasn't just lazy parenting or something like that.
Okay, Paris is up next asking, I'm on a committee for back to school icebreaker activities, and I'm stumped. They need to be 30 minutes long and about IB traits, like risk taking and open-minded. Any ideas or suggestions? What's IB traits? Anybody know?
I don't know. I probably know.
Help us out. Put it in the comments. That's where I always look for.
Icebreakers.
Anybody?
Man, I'm going to blank right now. I don't have an answer for you. You're
not an icebreaker guy, but you created your own, right? Like, that's why you started doing
the Life Odyssey.
Because they're similar in the vein that you're connecting, gathering information, like, and your Who Am I sheet. Like, you just do it in a different way. You're not the, like, even when you go to, if you had to go to like work conferences and they do like a lot of like stuff like that, that's not your jam.
It's not, and it's not my jam though, because
International Baccalaureate.
So
what is that?
It's I don't. Yeah. It's off
too bigger to explain.
It's not because I don't find value in them.
No, yeah, I don't think that.
But I often teach. The reason and this kind of came up for me the other day. I've really been thinking about a number of things lately. One of the reasons I don't is because I know my students. And because when you teach classes where you have hard to reach and hard to motivate students that are severely below grade level, that have a significant number of behavioral challenges, and that's what my classes were. It's hard to go that route with kids that are already like, if you have kids that are nervous that are in the class, kids with anxiety that are in the class, kids that are severely depressed that are in the class, and then be like, hey, let's do this whole fun activity. It's not the route that I wanted to go. And not to say that it couldn't be done, but that's why I chose not to do it. I'm certain there's tons of good ones though. So I'm curious to see what people will come up with. This is, and I hate to do that. Like, I don't like when I don't have an answer, but Paris, I would suggest posting this in the Facebook group as well. I'm certain you're going to get really good stuff in the Facebook group. I will say this is something that I've looked up on YouTube with not a lot of success. Like, I've looked them up for adults because I at one point was trying to think of, like, when I go and do talks, how could I do more participatory things, like having people do stuff. And
this is with students, right?
Yeah.
What about the?
You know who I would send you to? I'm going to tell you DM them. What?
What about your 3 favorite movie thing? Does that work?
No, that doesn't work for the format that they're going for. But I would DM Paris. You could go ahead and do this. Tell them I sent you. Kevin Butler on Instagram. He is an unbelievable teacher out of California, and I know he has stuff. He teaches middle school. He's awesome. So that's who I would.
That's like his jam.
Like, if you really want to answer, Facebook group, 1, 2, you might get some in the comments here. 3, and if no one's following, if you're not following this dude, I mean, he does room transformations in a way that I think are so doable also, where it's not like, look, I love Get Your Teach On. That is like Pinterest level and makes me, like, I think makes people feel like
overwhelmed.
I can't do that. That's not who I am. Kevin Butler does room transformations where you're like, what? He gets all his crap from the dollar store and Party City.
Awesome. I love Party City.
I miss Party City.
Party City can be a little expensive though.
Just saying, they got good
not
stuff.
Gonna lie. They
Remember, I bought that
stuff.
unicorn gold necklace there that time.
Okay. All right, Jacob.
Anyway.
Jacob is up next asking, my new honors classes. I will I will expect to do more independent reading.
Yes.
I'm so used to reading in class together and talking about it as we go. Any advice on teaching a higher level class is appreciated.
This question so much lately. So I got asked it by, I'm going to forget her name, the woman that emailed
her question.
Yeah, I'm forgetting her name. I was going to say it. Anyway, I'm blanking. Sorry,
I got a lot of emails.
47. So, and then I've gotten asked this a number of times lately. Here's my take on independent reading. One, I don't grade. I grade like, did you do it? Like, are you reading? The end. I don't give assignments on it. I don't give assessments on it. I don't base projects on it. For me, and look, you can. I'm not saying that you can't do that. And especially if it's like, that's why you're doing it. Most students don't read, especially boys. The studies show that especially teenage boys do not read of their own volition. And the kids that read, you're not trying to help them out anyway, because they're already reading, right? So what do I want to achieve in that is that why reading is important, why I think it's actually magical. Like, I think if you are looking at drops of ink on a piece of paper and it makes me feel something, angry, happy, it makes me cry, it makes me feel heartbroken. It's like, bro, that's magical, right? Like, it's just like something incredible about that. I want kids to learn to start reading because they want to read. I want kids to read more. There's a really, Jacob, this is worth watching. So one of my favorite editors of all time, movie editors of all time, is this guy, Max Joseph, who's also been on Catfish. He was one of the creators of Catfish. And I never watched Catfish, but all his other work is incredible. He made a video. It's on YouTube. It's a short documentary called Bookstores. It's worth watching. And in Bookstores, he talked about how he wanted to read more. And I used to show my kids like this chunk from it. He talked to someone that explained that the average reader, right? Like, people that read like occasionally will read about 50 books a year. But that if you just read 30 minutes a day and you live an average length life, you will read over 1,000 books in your lifetime, right? So you go from 50 books in a lifetime to 1,000 books in a lifetime. And then how much you learn and grow from that. And so when I have kids read, I don't require them to stay with the same book. I ask you to read, like, depends on the student, but it's usually 25 to 50 pages. It used to be 100. And then if you really don't like a book, don't finish it. Dude, as an adult, I start all kinds of books. I'm like, yo, this book sucks. I do this with TV shows too. It drives my wife crazy.
Yes.
We've watched TV shows where we'll watch 6 out of 7 seasons, and I'm like, dude, I'm not even finishing this. We watch a show. I think I talked about it. I don't know if I may have talked about it in the boot camp, called From Scratch with
You dipped out the last 2 episodes. You were like, I'm all done.
I
was finished. What? I gotta finish it.
It's way too depressing. And you know what got me? Sidebar. It was the little girl being in the hospital with her dad. And I remember being little in the hospital with my dad. And I was like, yeah, done. I'm not reliving this. Not unless I'm in therapy. But I let kids try new books. I will get books for kids. So like Senior for School will spring. Like, if a kid wants a certain book, do we have to get it from the library? Can I order it? Putting things on Donors Choose, like if kids suggest books, put them on Donors Choose. Every once in a while, like, someone just goes on and pays for those things, like in mass. So that's really something that could potentially happen. And then your students are going to benefit from that. And there's nothing like getting a brand new book in class. The other thing I do is I read with them. I'm never doing, guys, this is so important. I'm never doing something else when my kids are reading. I'm reading with them. If they're reading worksheets, if they're doing a short story that they're reading on their own that I've already read 50 times before, I am reading Telltale Heart with them. I'm reading The Lottery with them. And because I want to be the example of what it looks like to read. I'm constantly also talking about reading. I want to build a culture of that is like, reading is a good thing. So I will often come into class, and if I even have something on the board, hey, listen, y'all, I had this thing on the board. Wait, don't start it yet, because I have to tell you, you have to hear the beginning of this book that I started reading last night, or the end of it, or this really funny part, or this really like interesting way that they put this. So I'm always bringing in what I'm reading. And then at the end of our independent reading time, I'm bringing things up. So if we're talking about imagery, did anyone have a really good example of imagery? Did anyone have an example of illusion? Did anyone have a good example of whatever it is that we're talking about? And I want kids to shout that out, or to tell about what was going on in your book today. Like, did anyone have like a part today that you were like, what, or was confusing, or was awesome? Then this is what happens. Kids share things about their books, and then other students will go, wait, yo, what book are you reading, bro? And the beauty in that is that now we're building a culture where someone, like, because kids will go like this, yo, Reynolds, yo, can you get me that book? Can I read that book next? Can you put me down for that book? Now I have kids that are getting excited about reading just because we're talking about it and creating space for it. So yeah, I also, side note, I let kids sit wherever they want when they do independent reading. So you can lay on the floor. I don't care what you're doing. You can lay under a desk, whatever. As long as you can handle it. If you fall asleep or you can't handle it, then you have to sit in a desk until you can handle it again. And I play music underneath, because noises like typically just distract everyone. So I want to make sure that I have some kind of low drum that's not something tiring either. I used to play classical music or jazz, and kids told me that made them fall asleep. So I play like some kind of chill beats underneath or something like that.
Nothing with lyrics though, right?
Never anything with lyrics. It's always
that would drive me nuts.
Yeah. I used to put on a lot. I would put on like hip hop albums I loved from when I was younger. So a lot of Tribe Called Quest, a lot of De La Soul, but I would just look for, you can type in the name of the album, and then instrumental. And they have like Low End Theory, the whole album from Tribe Called Quest, with
that's awesome.
Where it's just the beats and stuff.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
you
That's
can get
awesome.
like the whole, like, like LL Cool J albums with no lyrics on them.
Very cool. Okay, Tony up next, asking, my new schedule will be 40-minute class periods.
Oh, boo.
I will have to get through a topic with 2 to 4 sections every 2 weeks. Any advice?
Who came up with this schedule, bro? That's like,
I love when you laugh at these.
It's just like, I've had those classes. The shortest I ever had was 37-minute classes. Right. First of all, why are we always changing these things? And why is it always someone that doesn't teach that's like, oh, this is good, this is what we should do?
So how long should a class period be, you think?
My favorite, I had 52 to 55-minute classes. That was my sweet spot. I think it was 52 because we gave kids longer between periods, which I also think is a good idea. Because I'd have these principals come in that would give like 3 minutes between classes.
Oh, that's crazy.
You know how crazy it is to get, like, I used to time them. I would bring it up in meetings, and I'd go, I sat in Mr. Rufo's class, which is in the back of the building on the 3rd floor, and walked the regular way with the students, did not rush, did not run, trying to get down those steps that were like,
a
cattle chute. Yeah, you can tell we live now here in New Mexico, the cattle chute.
True.
Then I'm like, God forbid you got to pee or you want to get a drink real quick. Like, there's 2 working water fountains.
And then you have teachers yelling at you, get it while you're
hurry up, get to class. So it's so dumb. It's like no one tried it.
Well, let's add on top that you really love hallway time. Like, that's your fave.
Oh, I do. This is all the time you build it.
Okay. Answer Tony's actual question.
Let me get to your. If I have 40-minute classes, one, you got to get super good with classroom management and transitions, particularly, because that's where you're going to lose all your time. That's where all teachers lose all their time. Once I feel like I mastered transitions, that means going from one activity to another, you just buy back tons of time. So I made a video about this. It's on YouTube. Just go to Real Rap with Reynolds transitions, type in. But it is, here's the question I would ask myself. I'm actually presenting about this on Tuesday. What if this was easy? That's what your starting question. 2 questions that I would ask myself at the beginning of every lesson I'm doing. 1, what if this was easy? And 2, what, like, start at the end. What do you want the students to know? All of it. Like, create the assessment, the test, the quiz, whatever it is that you're assessing them with. What is that assessment and what does mastery look like? And when you do that, so when you come up with this vision of what does mastery look like, and then you ask yourself, what if this was easy? What's the easiest way for me to communicate this to students and have them master this concept, this whatever it is that you're working on, the subject matter? I think we find that we make schools 10 months a year just because we decide it's 10 months a year. It's not because it takes that long to learn anything, right? It doesn't take 10 months. Someone didn't go, if we really want students to master algebra 1, it will take 10 months. No one ever measured that out, right? So it's thinking, I love this quote from Mr. Rogers, simple and deep is better than wide and complex. And sometimes we make subject matter wide and complex just to make it wide and complex. Sometimes because it makes us look great, like, oh, look how complex this lesson plan. It's like I'm Einstein over here. It's like Beautiful Mind with things all over the window. No, man, it doesn't take that long to sometimes get kids to understand something. So think of how simple you could make it. So you're going to make those 40-minute periods count, because we don't have to do 1,000 things. We don't have to get done everything in a day. So I found, to give you an example of this, I used to give, it was 20 vocab words. I know teachers that gave 30 vocab words a week. And I talked to this guy still teaches in Philadelphia, Ted Mueller. Ted Mueller said that he did I forget how many words he did in a year. Maybe it was 100 vocab words. But he's like, man, but my kids knew those to the core and they would never forget them. And he picked SAT words to do his vocab words. He's like, we didn't do words that were in the reading that we were doing because I wanted something I could go over again and again and again during the school year. So I took this concept and working with him, I started doing 5 words a week instead of 30. But man, we went heavy, deep, and real on those 5 words. The next week, we added 5 words on. So we didn't get rid of 5 words. We added 5 words on. And we kept doing this until we got to about 20 or 25 words. Then we'd restart. So we still would use those words again, those initial 20 to 25, but it was like about going deep. So it's paring down, going super minimalistic in what your approach is and what you're learning, and then get hardcore on those things instead of trying to fit all this different stuff in there. It's like, what would this look like? What's the minimalist? This was almost actually the concept of my first book of Teacher Class Off, was going to be called Bare Bones Teaching, because it's boiling it down to its essence. What do we really need to know? What's the easiest way to get there? What would mastery look like if I was extremely satisfied with where my students got to? And that's kind of where I would go with that. And then it's mastering those transitions, because that's going to be the only way that you get things done.
That's still what you do. Like that bare bones teaching concept is still a part of your classroom management, your lesson planning, your all the things that you do, or even structuring your time in school. Like, you're really good. And I always tell you this, you're really good at looking what is being asked of you to do and then learning, figuring out how to trim the fat on that, because you can't always get done everything that everybody wants you to do. Same, I guess, in teaching your lesson, but it's like, you have to kind of whittle it down to what is the core and what's the most important. Yeah.
And then getting better at actual teaching.
Well, your execution in it.
And so that kids are, it's because here's the thing, the pushback I would get, all the time from the English department was 5 words a week is not rigorous. Come see my lessons. Mm-hmm. You tell me if it's rigorous or not, because my dudes know those words at the end of the week. Right? They remember those words. They're pulling, when they see it in literature, when they see it in a song, we're watching a show and someone says a word, they're like, yo, that was a vocab word. Bro, tell me that's happening in your class. And I'm not trying to say I'm better, because Rebai did it a different way than me and gave tons of words, but his kids did a great job. But that was his approach. I just think that it's not dumbing it down. It's not just making it easier. It's actually, you're making it, I think you can go to the gym and do 20 different exercises and not get muscles. I think you can go to the gym and do 6 exercises 3 days a week and be swole.
Right. Okay. Pseudo is up next, saying I'm in my 3rd year teaching placement. It's only 3 weeks long. Any tips for learning everyone's name and getting to know students in a short time?
Yes. So so let's start with getting to know students in a short time. Getting to know students in a short time starts with I'm like camera 1, camera 2. Being around them. This is also going to help you learn kids' names too. Just be in spaces and places where kids are. Before class, I'm at the door shaking hands. Before school, if I can, I'm outside. During lunch, I'm eating lunch with students. I'm stopping and seeing students in the hallway. I'm going down to the lunchroom if I can. And now you don't have to spend your whole lunch period down there, but like if you stop in for 5 or 10 minutes, check in with different tables, see what's going on with kids. And at the end of the day, because I feel like the end of the day is where I can put the most time in, because I'm not always trying to get home right away, because I have stuff I like to leave my classroom in a way that I literally would get to my classroom door, look at it, and even if it was messy, go, am I okay with coming into this tomorrow? Like, is this how I want to enter my classroom? It's how I leave it. And when we do that, it is when we're spending that time at the end of the day, we're visual. Kids are becoming familiar with seeing us, and we gravitate towards the things we're the most familiar with. So if we see someone a lot, we are far more apt. You'll find that students will start gravitating to you for not just help in school, but to tell you about the new puppy that they got, to ask you a silly question, to talk to you about a TV show, to come to you if their locker's jammed and they can't get in, or if they had a hard day, or if you see a kid upset, you can pull them aside. And because they're familiar with you, they're going to answer it. So I want you to think about this. When you need money or you need relationship help, who do you go to? Right? We don't go to strangers. I'm not calling my, Aunt B that I don't ever see bars. That it's like I would always go to my Aunt Kath, because I grew up with my Aunt Kath, and she was like an older sister to me. And I still, to this day, like I go to my Aunt Kath with stuff. I go to the people I'm the most familiar with, not strangers. So by seeing them more, right, the family members that when you were younger that you went to, it's because you saw them a lot. You go to the friends that you see that you've built that familiarity with, not some random. I'm not going to go to the guy across the street that I met one time, at my house. I'm going to go to somebody I know. With regards to knowing students' names, this is particularly difficult for me. Which is part of the reason I come up with a lot of nicknames, and because I find that kids really like nicknames. It is looking at the seating chart, and when I'm talking to students, I want to say their name when I'm talking to them. So if Troy has an answer and I see he has his hand up, I will, and they don't know that I'm doing this. I'm walking around with my seating chart all the time, and I'm going, Kevin, yo, what's up? What do you got? And so it sounds like I know their name, and I'm getting used to it. The other thing is, and I learned this from a mentor of mine, Myron. Myron says that make a story up about someone's name. If you hear someone's name, oh, that's such an interesting name. Where did you get that? Where did you get that name from? And asking them about it. So now there's something behind it. It's not just like, it's like, my name's Genesis because my dad loved that book of the Bible, right? So it's like, oh, all right. So now I'm going to remember that instead of just trying to remember Genesis, right? That's good. Or finding out what kids like to go by. So Donovan used to go by Don Juan for some reason. And I was like, so it's just easier to remember. And he was such he was just so, he wasn't even smooth. He was a dork, but but
smooth all the same time.
Yeah,
he was. So
yeah.
I would say that's a very fitting. Knowing Donovan, I just think that's hilarious.
Yeah,
that's why I laugh, because I'm like, oh, that's so funny.
Don Juan, right?
And fitting.
So it's doing that too, like finding out what kids like to go by, because then that sometimes is going to stick in your brain more than just I've had years where I've had 5 Christians in class. Bro, what do we got here? Christian, Chris, Christian, tall Christian,
1, Christian 2,
yeah,
Christian
yeah.
3,
so we would just
Christian
make
4,
up different names for them.
because I know this from behind the scenes of what you do. CJ's seating chart is super uber simple. I just put it in our as a resource. It almost looks like it's kind of ugly and it's super plain, but you were like, no, I do this on purpose.
Yeah.
And I do remember you put a ton of notes on there.
Yeah.
Like that's your thing for everything.
Each kid had a block. And so each block I could write grades in there. I could write how to pronounce someone's name. Like I would spell it phonetically. I would actually go back and type them phonetically too.
You would use it for your attendance. You use your seating chart kind of like as a little map for the whole class.
Yeah.
So it's not just my seating chart. It's there when I need it. It's like, that's a piece of paper that you use every day, all year long.
It was easier to switch those seats too.
And then
it was like, you could just move them around.
Yeah. You could erase a name and move it, but then you would also take that information and then go put it in the computer for like attendance and that sort of stuff. Just a side note.
Paying attention.
It's been years of that. Okay, John Fox is up next asking, came across this idea recently that planning for too far in the future is a trap.
Yes.
Because even in just 5 years, so much can change, including yourself. Agree? Disagree?
Johnny Fox, I couldn't agree more. Why? One, because we don't know who this year's students are. And if there's anything that COVID showed us, it's that your students most of them aren't showing up on grade level when they get to your classroom anyway.
Oh, he said I didn't see this follow-up. He said asking about life in general, not teaching.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's good to have goals, but not.
So let's switch. So I'm going to finish that answer just in case anyone was wondering, because we're already in it now. I think that I have friends. So my friend Randy Rebuy would have this he did slides like me. He had slides for every day. His slides were done before the school year started.
I know. I remember he told you that one year. And we were in summer. We were like,
you just want everyone to hate you right now. Like, what? I used to tell him, like, that's because you don't have kids yet. That's like, I blamed everything on that. So he probably still does. Like, he has a kid now. He has a kid. I bet he's like, bro, I still got my slides done.
He's not teaching. Now he's a famous writer.
Yeah, now he's a famous author. So I only plan units in advance. I plan 5 weeks in advance. That's it. And then, so my units take 5 weeks to teach. And then I have 6 weeks that is like, it's like reviewing and the final assessment. Those can go longer, but just to give you a glimpse. But because I want to find out who my students are. I want to find out what kind of projects they want to do or help them or what's going to grow them. With regards to life, I'll tell you, John, I just had this talk. I went for a walk with my daughter yesterday. I didn't tell you about this. We're walking around this little kind of pond that's near us. And I said, we were talking about life plans. And I said, do you know that the life we're living right now, 2 years ago, probably a year ago, so let's go 3, right? I would have been like, what? Like, I'm not in the classroom. I don't even live in the Philadelphia area anymore. I'm doing this work full time. I live in New Mexico. Like
there is a Sunday Night Teacher Talk episode somewhere. I mean, we've done so many of them, and who the heck wants to listen back? Where CJ was like, "No, I'll never live in New Mexico," which I think is hilarious.
Here I am.
Here you are,
living in New Mexico. It is that like my kids aren't homeschooled anymore. Like there's so much different right now, John. And I didn't even have like a life event, right? Like that shifted everything necessarily. I don't plan, and I'll tell you, as I'm just thinking about this, and not to go on too long, let's go here real quick, right?
Oh,
and
boy.
This is, some people will get this and some people won't. I've learned in the last year, Fox, that I can make plans, but I need to get in tune with what God's plans are for my life and move in that direction. That my plans don't always happen. Now, look, I think God gives me my wants, and that's a whole, like my desires. Like when I really, like, I wanted to start a business, and I don't think that came out of nowhere. And like, that's a whole nother conversation. But if I can get in tune with what God has for me, my goodness, I don't know. I mean, anywhere I've ever followed God has been, I mean, I wasn't going to Africa and living in Africa without God. I wasn't living in a monastery. I wasn't becoming a clown. I wasn't a part of an intentional community. I certainly wasn't moving to New Mexico, but that's so no, it's like you could make a bucket list, but it's like, bro, I don't even know anymore because any plans I made, like I thought I was going to teach for the rest of my life.
That's such an interesting question, I think, for us in particular, and why you're like all over the place with it is, we've made many plans and had many plans, but they just, man, one thing that God has showed us is that our plans aren't what matters.
They're not always what his plans
They're not always what his plans are, and his plans are so different. And we've learned to be, we've tried to make lots of plans, but they don't always work out. And I don't know if that's because we're just called to, we have a specific, God has a goal for us in mind. I don't really know what it is. I think we can make plans and have things that we want our lives to look out or move towards, but especially if you have a faith and you believe that, then there has to be some fluidity with that. If you don't have a faith, like, yeah, go ahead and make all the plans you want, but think things will still, nothing ever happens. But I just don't think that's true in anybody. I don't think that's true in anybody's story. Nobody makes plans and things go exactly step by step. There's always curveballs. There's always a bazillion things. There's so many scenarios and situations that can have that will change things on a dime. You can make all kinds of plans, and someone important and big, a structure in your life could die, and then that's going to blow up all those plans. There's just like a ton of different things that can happen.
Well,
so I think
Boys Latin, and it's like my principal got fired, and then they brought in 5 more, and they all sucked. And it was
you never ever would have left there if it wasn't for that. Like,
I was texting with him this morning
forever
with Dr. Tennant, and like, because they wrote about him in that book, and
so I think you can make plans, but you always have to be fluid.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's probably the answer, because you just never know what's.
We'll go on and on about that.
We do, because we have a lot of experience. We've made a lot of plans, and then a lot of them didn't work out. So. Okay, you're gonna love this person's name. Stormtrooper Holds is up next, asking,
you should get a gift.
Any advice for a first-time 12th grade language arts teacher? Yeah, lots of. It was all in the boot camp.
Yeah,
50 pages worth.
So, which, look, if anyone's interested in the boot camp, we did a new teacher boot camp last week. I think we're going to offer it as a recording now, too. It's like the live part's done, but
we're going to keep it open. We were going to close it, but we recognize that, like,
people need it.
Folks on the East Coast, they're not trying to do any of that stuff now. It's like they're still enjoying. They don't go back till September, right? So they might not need it yet. So we're going to leave it open and available for anybody. Can
you throw the link in there? Should someone want it?
Sure.
But so Stormtrooper, I would say, 1, get real clear on why things are important. What you're going to deal with, like by Halloween, is senioritis. The way I always beat senioritis is by, like, what we're talking about here is incredibly important. And here's why, right? Because I need you to be able to annotate texts like this. I need you to be able to read deeper. I need you to be able to read longer. I need you to be able to, so like, even when you're dealing with students that have already gotten into college, it's a done deal. Like, as long as they get like certain grade point average this year, they're just like, I'm just mailing it in. No, I want you to be the best student you can be in your freshman year. Talking about to my students about like how poorly many students do in their 9th grade year, how kids lose scholarships because they don't have because you got good at being here, but doesn't mean you're good at being in college. So I want to really build that in and make things that are engaging. I think the other thing I would consider doing, and I talk a lot about this, I talked about this a bit in the boot camp, but I talk about this a lot in general, is can you have guests to either come in the class or to Skype or do a Zoom call? So finding people that are good, so if you're reading a particular bit of literature, can you find writers? Can you find folks, if you're reading a play, can I find a playwright? Can we go see a play? Can I get experiences for students? So I'm either taking them places or having people come to the school or meet us on Zoom that are remarkable and they are in this world. Kids don't always want to listen to us, but they will listen to other people, right? It's just like when you're growing up and, your parents are probably banging their head against the wall because you didn't want to do something, but now your friends do it and you're like, seriously, now you're going to do it because someone you think is cute did it. It's really creating those connections. How can I create moments for my students this year? And I think I found that with especially older kids, having a lot of real conversations with them, right? They want to be grown, but they don't really know what it's like to be grown. And I think kids are often told speak when spoken to and then are never spoken to. So how can we have real conversations with students? And I'll tell you this, last one, holding kids accountable. I have to be consistent. So when I've taught seniors, even juniors to some degree, and they just check out at some point in the year and they just stop handing in work, but then they think they can just wait till the end of the quarter or the end of the year, just hand it all in. I'm going to grade all this. Nope. I let them know yo, I don't take late work, bro. So I get kids to do stuff by building urgency in the class. If you do not have it in by the date that it's due, unless there's some horrific unforeseen circumstance, like someone got sick, someone died, you end up in the hospital, you had to get stitches. I'm sorry you were tired this week, but there's no handing that in now because that's not how your life works. Good luck paying your taxes late or giving your wife a gift the day after her birthday, and tell me how that works out for you. So it's building in that consistency, but letting kids know that comes from a place of loving care.
You can give me a gift a day late. I wouldn't mind.
Well, I would let you know that in New Mexico, Amazon Prime it's a suggestion.
It is a suggestion.
It's not real.
It's definitely not real. Okay, Kate's up next asking, what are your recommendations for managing the Sunday scaries, especially when they are triggered by critical parents of students?
That's a good question.
I like John's in the comment. John Lopez said, think about the enjoyment that you get from the job. Do not let those parents become mental squatters.
Oh,
I love that. Mental squatters.
Yeah, Lopez.
That's a good one.
I think I would go kind of that route. I'm thinking about how when I'm doing the work that I'm doing as an educator, it always comes down to what's best for the child. So what I'm doing in class it's why I talk about things like classroom management is not trying to get kids to behave. It's not trying to discipline kids. It's not me being in charge. It's not me put my foot down. It's about me putting healthy and useful boundaries around what we're doing in class so that students can grow. And so it's meant to benefit them. And then you just get better behavior because of the way that you do that. When I'm talking to parents that are upset, I let them know that. I let them know that, I'm here for your kid. I want your kid to be successful. I used to tell moms that I talked to, I'd be because it was mostly moms. I'd be 95% of my parent teacher conferences were moms coming in. I would tell moms, I'm like, look, I don't want your child to live in the basement next to the Christmas decorations and call it their apartment for the rest of their life. Like, I don't want that for you. I want them to live a life of their dreams. I want them to take care of and support you when they get older, and not you still supporting them. And so how do we work? How do we figure this out together? And I want parents to know I'm a willing, like, that's my goal. And some parents get down with that. Some parents don't. But I have to know, Kate, that this is my mission, is to help children succeed. And I'll tell you what, sometimes parents are doing, look, here's a hard pill to swallow. Some parents think they're helping their kids, and they're not. Some of them are being too soft. They're being too lenient. They're doing their kids' friggin' homework for them or writing their papers for them. I remember having a mom write a paper I found out that she wrote the paper for him. And she was pissed at the grade that she got. Like, it was like, but then it came out that, like, she's the one that wrote it. And I was like, oh, your grade had bad, because I gave you like a
bad grade.
A bad grade. Well, like, maybe you should show up to my class. Like, we'll welcome you in.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But it's really like, you have to know why you're doing it. And then you reminding yourself why you're doing it. And that goes with anything, Kate. Like, when I know that what I'm doing is in the best interest of children, I sit better with it. When I know that I gave someone a 0 because they were cheating during a test and I need you to learn that answer, and a kid goes, Mr. Reynolds, please, I'm going to get in so much trouble. No, I need you to know that this is why I'm doing it. I need to know you to know that why you can't talk when other people are talking. And so I can hold you accountable for things like that, because I know it's going to serve you better. I know that teaching you how to actively listen, how to manage your emotions, how to, work with your learning difference is all going to benefit you, that I'm never doing something to be mean. And so it's me knowing that, similar to what Lopez said, is what I think helps.
Yeah, it is why you tell teachers repeatedly, you have to know your why. That's part of like your classroom management series. That's part of new teacher boot camp. It's everywhere. Anything that we put out, it generally somewhere in it, like the new teacher summer to-do list that we put out, it's like in there is like, know your why.
Yeah.
You have to have a strong why to be able to back it up to students and to parents. And I think, what parent is really going to, I've never had a teacher tell us that. If I had a teacher tell us like, no, I'm doing this because I want the best for your child and them to be successful, and I'm doing this because of this and all the things. Like, if I ever had a teacher tell me that about my kid, I'd be like, all right.
We've had plenty of teachers that we haven't liked and that we've been aggravated with, but no one has ever come to us even saying that they want to be they want to partner with us.
Yeah, no, never.
That's the thing.
I'm sure that there are some parents out there that would probably go, no, right? I'm sure that they exist. And Kate, maybe those are the parents that you have.
I think they know better or whatever.
Yeah, but I just think you can't do anything about that one. So that goes back to you of like just building up the ability to kind of like, no, I know what I'm doing is right. And maybe listening, depending on some things, it's always being open to like, is someone speaking some level of truth? That's
key.
But if you know that they're not, then it's just about building up that.
I also had, I'll tell you this, Kate, and then I'll move on. This is another thing with Dr. Tennant, and who's the best principal I ever had. If we had a particularly egregious parent, right? So it's typically not like all the parents. I would have like a handful of parents a year that were over the top. And folks that weren't interested in partnering, folks that weren't interested in hearing what I had to say. It was like they just wanted to be right. And because they felt, a lot of parents in those situations that I dealt with felt like it was like questioning their parenting, or I don't know. Really good leadership will protect you from that. Tennant used to tell me, I remember certain parents, and this was not a lot, but it was a handful of them. He would go, no longer answer those emails. Send them to just forward them to me. And I got them. If a parent showed up at the school pissed and to see me, then there were parents that were like, Dr. Tennant would know that they were
On
there.
the list.
He's going to go see them. You were never in a meeting. You were
That's
never
an awesome administrator.
But it's someone that's helping to look out for you and is seeing that, like, we're like, although we serve you and your children and we're serving this community, we are not like servants in the sense that you can kind of just tell someone what to do. But that takes really strong administration to be able to do that.
Yeah. Someone on Instagram said sometimes parents know their students better than schools, and they should have a place at the table when making decisions in their child's educational plan.
No, just why I say you need to start building those connections in the beginning of the year and talking to students, like going to parents with questions that identify that are like, no, you know your kid better than me, right? But there are moments, what I'm saying is like when you have these parents that are over the top and very aggressive and in sometimes like that
your policies and procedures,
but in ways that are just like, we're not partnering together, right? So I think it's acknowledging that parents, yes, know their students. You've known them their whole life. I've known them for 5 minutes, right? So I'm looking for partners, but I want to work together. I will not be lorded over, I guess is what it is. But you're right. Sometimes we are wrong, and it is worth, that's a word for somebody. Sometimes we are wrong, and we have to listen to those criticisms of parents because sometimes they're right. And I've had parents tell me like complain about me sometimes, and I'm like, oh no, you're absolutely right. And I have to swallow my own pride and learn how to do that. So anyway, that was not exactly where Kate was going, but we went all over the place.
We gave a lot. All right. Well, we're a little over an hour.
Oh, wow. Really?
Already. Yeah, there are other questions.
Do one more.
Okay. Patty Cake is up next asking, at my high school, we see students 90 minutes per day, 5 days per week. I teach an elective class. How would you structure a 90-minute class that meets every day for a half year?
That is for a half year. This is another, I would love on the front end, I want to say, I would love to know the rationale behind this. Not saying it's bad. It's a half year. So I'm curious. That was,
I like 90-minute classes. We had and granted, I was college level. We had 90-minute classes.
5 days a week though?
For each class, for the same class? Like, no, it wasn't 5 days a week. I think it was once a week, but I liked, that's a lot of content to plan thinking about that. But I like 90-minute classes because it gave enough time to like get through the topic or whatever we were doing. And ours was computer based. So that took a little bit of, maybe they were longer, like hands-on examples.
Because you had to learn it. And once you get into it, it's like you're trying to find that flow state. So I would run it the same way that I run my classes, like a 40 or 50 minute class, but just longer. I enjoy doing structured time and chunked. So I'm doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all have their similar components, but the core of the class. So I start the class the same way every day. I do my second activity is vocab every single day. The core of my class, though, where we're going to learn a new concept, we're going to practice a concept, we're learning about new material, or kids are researching whatever that day holds, is different each day. So Monday, and I've said this so many times, but you get, with over 800 videos on YouTube, you're just like, I don't know what people have heard or not. So if you've heard this before, I apologize. Mondays is like a writing exercise, vocab. I want to be reading, speaking, and doing vocab every single day. I also want to be reading every day in my 9th grade English class or in any of my English classes. Monday is learning a new concept. So in brief, this is basically what we're going over. If it's literary terms, if it's a new way to annotate, if it's research, this is the thing we're going to unpack this week. Tuesday, we learn how to do that. The biggest part of my classes is really going deep on learning how to do this. Wednesday is you doing it, right? You do, like, now I'm handing it over to you. I've showed you how to do it. I've walked through it with you. Wednesday is you really unpacking that. Thursday is further unpacking that and then taking it to the next level. Friday is an assessment. The following week is either something new on Monday, or if that was so if we're talking about like research paper writing, which even that is typically chunked, it's like we'll spend a week or two just looking at opening paragraphs, right? Or supporting your claim or something like that. I will do that for another week, but to me, it's chunking the class up and then chunking the days. The thing that works with that for me is when my students know that it's Wednesday, that it's independent reading day, which is one of the chunks that we do on Wednesdays, they know it's not a surprise. Every Wednesday we do that. Every Friday there's an assessment. Every Monday is usually like when I'm bringing in something new, what I want to do is create a hook. So they know, because it's also Monday. So maybe there's a prop in the classroom. Maybe I tell them on Friday, I'm not saying we're going to make fires on Monday, but there's a good chance something gets caught on fire, right? Don't be late to class. And then it's like, what? Reynolds, what are we catching on fire? It's maybe the kids walk in on a Monday and there's only battery powered candles are the only light source in the classroom. Maybe there is something set up for an experiment. Maybe there's a sign on the door that says, meet me in the cafeteria. But Mondays are meant to build anticipation. Then I tell them what we're going to do. Tuesday is more like getting our hands dirty, doing the thing. So that's having those kind of theme days as much as possible. It can't happen every week, but as much as possible is what helps start to build that rhythm. And then I know what's coming up too, right? So when people hear about like doing something fun and crazy in the classroom, it's not every day we do that, right? But like at least one day a week, there's something kind of nuts going on in my classroom. So I start building in those rhythms, and that helps me to take that 90 minutes, break it down into sizable chunks, and really get into it as well. And don't be afraid. Look, 90 minutes is a long time to learn anything. Building in breaks is really, really crucial sometimes. You'll get more out of your students if you have designed breaks. And I don't always let them just like go on their phone or do something like that or play a game on their computer. I will build in a game, right? So we're going to do like a handful of minute to win it games in the middle of class. We're going to do a challenge. We're going to do a scavenger hunt. We're going to, I used to hide kids' phones in my bookshelves and then tell them to go in the hallway, and then they had 60 seconds to find it when they came back in. Just like dumb stuff like that, or hide a candy bar in your bookshelf or something like that. We're all kind of taking this break. We're building up excitement. We're getting things moving again. And then we jump back into what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Ruth A here said 90-minute classes every day is taking the class in one semester, just like college.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's Eric Murphy taught like that as well. Which is kind of, I get it, but then I got to meet kids halfway through the year and start a new,
it creates a new flow. Like you have to like create a new rhythm.
Even electives, like we do them every like half a year or every quarter. It was like, bro.
Not your fave, huh?
No, I like keeping kids a whole year. Yeah. So yeah. With that, gang, if you did not make the boot camp, we are going to we're making that available. You can still use the link. It's going to be under this in the show notes. And it's in the comment section now. If you want to do the boot camp, you can just sign up for it. It's going to be open for the rest of the summer. And then coming soon is the classroom management workshop is coming back, and that has a ridiculous amount of resources with that as well, and over 4 hours of content. And yeah, I'm hoping that some of you watching this, I'm going to meet you in the next 2 weeks. I'm going to be traveling around, going to different schools and stuff like that. If your school's still looking for speakers, still available. So hit me up, and I can send you all the stuff that you would need to know to send your administration to have me come and speak to your school. Yeah. Anything else?
No, that's it. You covered it.
Thanks. So supportive. Cool.
Try.
See you next week, gang. Peace.